So you came into the church and were then married?
So here we are, we're new Catholics, and we want to get married, and we're planning this wedding, and both sides of our family are somewhat unsettled because obviously this isn't the wedding that they were planning for, right? They had all these ideas, and we're like, well, there's this thing called the Mass, and we're going to have, a Mass. So the wedding itself really kind of demonstrated, I think, some of the familial things and relationships that we had to overcome. Because at the Mass, when there was communion, there's maybe 200 people showed up. I think 4 people in the crowd took communion. That's how many Catholics were there. That's it. There was my wife and I up front, and like 4 lonely souls. It was really funny because the 4 Catholics there thought it was like a trick because no one was getting up for communion, so they didn't know why no one was getting up for communion, and slowly like all 4 of them started trickling out and going up to receive. But we didn't really have a lot of like family support in that area. Over time now, I think there's been a lot of conversations between us and both sides of the family, and I think they've become much more understanding of the faith.
In a moment, we'll find out what's going on in Harrison's life now.
These things they've heard their whole lives, like Catholics believe this, Catholics believe that. To watch those things finally settle in them and they come to peace with them, or it unlocks something they've always wished was true, right? That's where a lot of the joy of teaching really, really strikes home.
Today's episode, we talk how faith and reason go hand in hand in Catholic tradition. So many people who are not from a Catholic background, either a different faith tradition or perhaps they're first starting their faith journey altogether, simply don't understand what Catholics believe and why we teach what we teach. Here's a technique that you can use. It's at the end of chapter 6 in Catholics Come Home, God's Extraordinary Plan for Your Life. And it's a tip that's called the feel, felt, found technique. Here's how it works. Perhaps the other person is from a different faith tradition. Maybe they know a lot about their faith, and you need to share something that's a teaching and not sure how to do it. The feel, felt, found technique builds a bridge between you and that other person. For example, let's say you're talking about a teaching of the church on a moral issue, sanctity of human life, marriage, one of the other pivotal issues of our day. The feel, felt, found technique works like this. I understand how you feel. I know other people felt the same way as you did. But upon further research, in reading the Catechism of the Catholic Church, in studying Scripture on what Jesus taught about that particular topic, they've found this to be true. And see, you build that bridge in communication between you and the other person you're witnessing to allow them to save face and to present the position of Jesus' teachings through the Catholic Church. It's a technique that helps build that bridge and doesn't create animosity, but creates a fertile ground for you to share the faith. Whether it's the feel, felt, found technique at the end of chapter 6 or any of the other tips we have at the end of our chapters in Catholics Come Home, consider using one of these helpful hints in sharing your faith and helping to love somebody to heaven.